Oh, hello. It seems we have a guest. Whatever can I do for you, stranger? Oh, you're curious about my little world down there. I guess I can tell you a little about it. Let's start with its people. They shape the world down there almost as much as I do. Last week, we told a familiar tale from a different perspective. Let us now do that with my currently most popular tale, the story of Paige. But this time with her sister Lizzie taking center stage. I hope you enjoy her tale as much as you did Paige's. Name Lizzie Carmine. Race Red Queen. Sex female. Age 16. Height tall. Shape sports thick. Magic class Underland. Occupation none. Affiliation Flamingos Heart Court Queen. Croquet team Vice Captain. Hat Club Family Sophia Carmine Aunt. Victoria Carmine Mother. Paige Carmine Twin Sister. Alvin Shire Stepfather. Eric Shire Younger Brother. Relationships Louis Fadden Partner King. Rhea Hittop Radiant White Rabbit. Ken Tenzin Drowned Hatter. Kafu Everhart Cheshire. Theodore Shire Boyfriend. Calvin Mills Best Friend. Taikuro Confidant. Quartermain Tutor Friend. Overview Lizzie is a Red Queen from Prime Verse 2. Her loud, blunt, and direct way of speaking might make her seem like a typical Red Queen, but this is certainly not the case. She carries her heart on her sleeve and can be overly emotional. Those who know her, though, understand she simply wants to be understood. Her court's nature is a volatile one that she struggles with daily. Lizzie wants to be kind, caring, and generous, but as a Red Queen, she must go about things differently. For instance, her generosity needs to be wrapped in dismissal. She acts as if she doesn't want it, so you can have it if you want, even if this is a lie. It allows her to circumvent her race's normally selfish nature. This is also helped by her sister Paige, constantly challenging her authority, forcing her to match Paige in grace and charity. Altogether, Lizzie is a kind, caring girl wrapped in layers of Red Court expectations. Background: Lizzie was born the healthier of a pair of twin sisters. Her sister Paige was weak and sickly, so Lizzie took it upon herself to become her protector. She invented games of pretend that even her often bedridden sister could participate in. They grew close as Lizzie helped Paige test the boundaries of what she could do. When they were 4, their relationship was unexpectedly complicated. Lizzie's mother had both feet firmly planted in the Underland courts. This made Lizzie believe their positions and courts were all but a foregone conclusion. This was not so. The girls were not judged in a vacuum. All courts were considered. Apparently, this resulted in Lizzie receiving the expected assignment, but Paige did not. Her sister was assigned to the white courts, but at least she was still a queen. Lizzie at first easily believed this changed nothing, but as the right and proper of her new status settled in, Lizzie realized what a struggle this would truly be. Her new nature fought directly against everything Paige was. It became hard to simply be in the same room as her. She tried not to fight with Paige, but everything she did annoyed her now. She would throw herself around her bedroom, all to vent this seemingly endless hatred for the person she loved the most. This eventually got the two of them sent to their aunt, while their mother tried to come up with a solution. Now, in a much more rural area, Lizzie took the opportunity to get out of the house to avoid harming or arguing with Paige. It was here she met Simon Hittop, a blue hatter. She tried to recruit him to Underland, but he was steadfast in his decision of courts. This confused Lizzie. Why had Simon been allowed to choose his own court? Simon explained that while his grandfather was born in home, his father was not. Thus, it was his father's decision whether he and his siblings were to be courted officially, or if they were allowed to find their own way. All of them had elected to figure out their own court assignments and colors. Hence, his family had produced not only a hatter, but a poet and king as well. This astonished Lizzie, and admittedly made her quite jealous. She inquired how they made such a mixed bag of a family work, as hers was falling apart. Simon simply said honesty was the key. It's a brutal truth that can open the roads of compromise. Lizzie couldn't believe such a thing could be true, but she was desperate. She explained the idea to Paige, and the two began arguing and insulting one another. Eventually, the tension between them deflated, seemingly satisfied with their offering of verbal warfare. They both knew the peace wouldn't last forever, but if they could just keep the right and proper satiated well enough, they could finally mostly go back to the way things were. Lizzie thanked Simon for his help. Simon was simply overjoyed that the sisters had found a modicum of peace. She also met Isaac and Isaiah Croft. They were both human mancers, Isaac a dive mancer and Isaiah a sponge mancer. 2 years later, when Lizzie was 6, the Croft family went on a trip to Pendragon Carnival in Fairsilver. They returned without Isaiah. When questioned, Isaac said his brother had been kidnapped by their grandparents, who sought to use his mancy to mold Isaiah into their weapon, something they had evidently tried to do to their mother, Ivory, but had been thwarted by their uncle, Casimir. Simon didn't take this well, and soon declared he had to go in search of Isaiah. When Lizzie asked why, Simon admitted he had thoughts of making Isaiah his Alice. This was an honor allowed by a hatter, but only once. It bound the two together, with the Alice being the hatter's grounding point, and the hatter swearing his protection to that person, while not always romantic. It was clear to Lizzie that in Simon's case, it was. Lizzie could only hope to have a bond like that someday. When she was 10, her mother returned after hearing what a brilliant strategy the girls had perfected. Fighting a few hours a day so that they could buy themselves days of uninterrupted peace, she brought several white rabbits and orphaned children. The children were for Paige, as their mother was denied a proper group of rooks due to her crimes against Wonderland. Lizzie found all of the rabbits perfectly serviceable, but they lacked backbone. Her mother said such things were wholly unnecessary for a proper white rabbit, but Lizzie wasn't going to take a rabbit that would never tell her no. She knew what she was capable of, and what she might become if she got her way all the time. So she fought to preserve the parts of herself not yet taken by her new court assignment. She turned away every rabbit presented. This became increasingly difficult after her sister selected a rook for herself. She quelled her anger, though, by reminding herself that it wasn't an official rook. It was cruel to look at Eugene Lafu like that, she knew. But it was the only way. She wouldn't just choose one of these spineless cowards out of spite. They then were allowed to move back in with their mother. Now that there was someone to further help keep the peace between the two sisters, Lizzie learned to appreciate Eugene for his unity-mancy. that made it even easier to act civil around her sister. When she saw her bold sister quickly assembling her own court, however, her jealousy was evident. Lizzie was shy, mostly because it was hard to control her raging temper and big mouth. Lucky for her, even socially awkward blowhards have their birds of a feather. The first to approach was Calvin Mills, who found her outbursts entertaining. Tickled by this, Lizzie quickly fell for Calvin's carefree charms. Unfortunately, as they were both young, they didn't realize that their actions might have consequences. After a year of dating, Lizzie, in an effort to entertain her beloved, had become monstrous. She lost her cool at the littlest things. It wasn't until she cornered and beat up a boy named Theodore Shire, whom she had caught in her sister's room, only to find out Paige had invited him. Calvin found this hysterical, but Lizzie didn't. They fought and then broke up. Theo comforted her despite what she had done. He admitted that he knew a lot about the pressures of the right and proper, since his family was allegedly never allowed to go mad, as it would drive them insane. Lizzie's reaction was normal for a young Red Queen. Lizzie said she didn't want to be a normal Red Queen. Her sister so easily defied the role she was given, so why must she struggle so much? Theo then said something that would change Lizzie's life forever. You are not your sister's clone. You are her reflection. You shine in your own ways. Don't define yourself based on anyone. Lizzie had never considered that she reflected her sister. That made a strange amount of sense. She was simply not looking for friends in the right places or in the right ways. As a test for this, she admitted she was jealous of Paige for getting a guy like Theo. He said that was easy enough to solve. He would simply date both siblings so they couldn't fight over him. Lizzie asked if he wasn't worried about being exposed to muchness that often. Theo admitted he had theorized for a while that the effects of madness on the Shire family had been drastically overblown. Lizzie eagerly agreed, glad to have one less thing to fight with her sister over. She later went to Calvin, and the two apologized. Calvin admitted Theo was likely a far better fit for her. She didn't need someone enabling her rage all the time. Lizzie disagreed. While they were terrible as a couple, Lizzie had fun with him, cutting wild like that felt good sometimes. Happy Calvin proposed the two remain friends then, and Lizzie gladly agreed. She approached a half-fey boy at school one day that seemed just as short-tempered as her. She asked what the boy did to vent his anger. The boy, Quartermain Bramble, told her about the local gun range and how shooting there always made him feel more in control. Lizzie demanded he show her, and he gladly acquiesced. The two bonded over their shared fight with the rage inside them and the love of destruction found at the gun range. A year later, during croquet team practice, Lizzie was approached by the captain, Taikuro, an RHS variant Blue King. He remarked on her skills on the field and offered her a position as vice captain. She eagerly accepted. This turned the two into pseudo-rivals, viciously quipping at each other as if their hatred was centuries old. It was a fun game between the two that allowed Lizzie to express herself while staying within her nature. The two attended many tea parties together, acting like a bickering old couple. It was at one of these parties that she met Louis Fadden, a Red King. Louis said his brother Louis was looking to form a shared, mixed court. Lizzie begged to meet him, and Louis reluctantly agreed. A week later, they went to a Victorian manor to meet with Louis. Lizzie was confused, as the place looked more like the home of a vampire than a king. Cafu Everhart, a Cheshire tiger who met them at the door, confirmed it was in fact the home of a vampire named Nick Thricer. Louis explained that Louis had fallen in love with Cafu, and that was what inspired him to create a mixed court. Cafu was Nick's personal servant, so in order for them to be together, Louis moved into Nick's house. With Nick's blessing, introductions were made, and Louis was clearly smitten. He said that Lizzie possessed all the radiant traits of a proper Red Queen, but with a spin of her own desires mixed in. She had clearly found many ways to bend her nature to her needs, and while the techniques weren't perfect, the fact she even wished to try them made her shine far brighter than any queen fully devoted to the right and proper. Louis didn't want to shatter the notion of right and proper, but bend it in such a way to show the rules were not as rigid as many currently believed. He asked if Lizzie would join him. He was aware this was sudden, and usually these things were meant to take years, but he was eager to share his ideas with her and to learn all he could from her. Lizzie, after some thought, said yes. The whole point of Louis's court was to show the right and proper was merely a suggested path and nature, so it made sense that if they both thought themselves ready to commit, why hold themselves back for the sake of ritual? A year later, they recruited Ken Tenzin, a drowned hatter. This variant seemed to imply one had drowned in the oceans of Holmes' magic and then resurrected. It gave him a water affinity, and his vorpal blade was a glittering ultramarine instead of the glowing purple. They also found one of Simon's cousins, Rhea Hitop, a solar priestess who had chosen White Rabbit as her court position. This gave her radiant golden fur, making her as unique a rabbit as the two could find. Unfortunately, her brother Garth turned down their invitation, stating that he wished to enter the Black Butterfly Court to be with his cousin and mentor Sam Hitop. Ken stated this was fine. There was no need to hurry and find him a hare and dormouse. He was quite content simply being a part of such an interesting court. Louis and Lizzie have become inseparable, often being seen together with their court and Nick. She still goes out with Quartermain and is dating Theo, though the latter is mostly to stave off jealousy. Lizzie has also thrown herself fully into the management of the croquet team. She also does her best to aid Ty as he goes through the harsh therapy for RHS his parents put him through. Personality: Lizzie is loud, blunt, and occasionally violent. None of this is her true nature, though she is incredibly protective of her loved ones, defending her sister from the other queens and kings that might mean her harm. She's also very giving, though it must be wrapped in hate or she won't be able to part with it. She has vented much of her anger into competitive activities. This allows more of her true self to shine through when off the playing field or away from the shooting range. Appearance: Lizzie's vermilion hair reflects her red queen nature, while her sakura pink eyes show the softer side hidden within. Her propensity for large, flowing clothing, such as ball gowns, shows her upbringing in a royal household. This is also evident in the way she carries herself, though most of that is her leaning on her queen nature. A few words can send her sputtering, revealing the shy, introverted nature she tries to hide. Abilities: Mallard, a bright pink flamingo, and as tradition dictates, Lizzie's weapon of choice. She will often bonk those who annoy or disagree with her. Despite being treated like a hammer, Mallard is fiercely loyal to Lizzie, not even allowing others to hold him. Though if Lizzie is in danger, he's been known to make exceptions. He justifies this by making the entire experience of wielding him very unpleasant. Off with their head, a spell exclusive to the Red Courts, while decapitation is quite common among the courts, as it happens so frequently in the Red Courts, often for frivolous reasons. There became a need to make the act non-fatal by declaring the words "off with their head," preceded by a swing at the person's neck area. Their head will go harmlessly flying off. Both parts of the body can be rejoined by simply placing the head back on the shoulders. Though since this is a spell made by the mad, it is possible to put the head on wrong, such as backwards, requiring another declaration and subsequent decapitation from the queen or king to get another attempt. Sharpshooter. Years at the gun range with Quartermain have not been fruitless. Lizzie's talent with firearms is unprecedented, considering that a red queen would traditionally stick to flamingos, a blunt or bladed type weapon. This has also resulted in an ability to throw Mallard beak first, as if he were a bullet, with insane accuracy. That's it for brilliant, blunt Lizzie. She is a radiant rose in my garden of stories. I hope you enjoyed her tale, and come back anytime for more stories from my world.